People always say to me, America's has the most clout. The EMEA is a one-team region. So what should we do? Import all their players, of course. That's right, VCT EMEA is back for Kickoff 2025. And I'm going to be taking a look at all of the roster moves, which teams are going to struggle, and more importantly, which teams are making it to the first international event of the year, Masters Bangkok. I couldn't do this by myself, so as always, I'm joined by the trusty Scotsman, Kairo.
It's always nice to talk about tier lists, you know, the classic, innit?
Had to pull you out of retirement to get you back on one of these lists, right? What have we gone from having an America's winning head coach to this guy?
Of course,
so,
of course, he's going to mention it.
You have the experience, we both do with EMEA the previous year. Let's get straight into it.
I think I'm not too bad on my predictions, by the way. You've got to give me my due when it comes to it.
You say this every single time, though, and I think that's probably the most concerning part. We'll kick it off with Apeks. You and I know them well. We commentated them for all of North last year, a little bit into Ascension as well. They've managed to do it, back-to-back finals. It's finally stuck, but changes have been made. Kayak and Soulcast, the two MVB players of both respective splits that they had regionally, are gone. And they've brought in Florescent and their fifth player, who is the last roster move of all VCT, and we still don't know who they are. What do we think about these guys, Kairo? What can we possibly say after the year that they've had?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what, right? Like, coming into the year, not into the year, but coming into the off-season, I wasn't a believer, right? I don't know, that's like sacrilege, let's be honest. That is kind of sacrilege. We're meant to be the Apeks boys and stuff. I had some worries, right? I had some concerns. They picked up Florescent, then I had no concerns. Then we've been waiting on the fifth player, and then I had more concerns. You know, it's a bit of a seesaw when you're supporting Apeks. It's like having a flawless year and then getting to the finals and then losing in the last game to get promoted, right? So for me, Hazza, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm going to put Apeks in a playoff push spot, and that's a tentative one because I'm worried that in the kickoff space, that like having the possibility of having to have a sub is not going to do them well, you know. So, but we'll see.
Everyone's going to be talking about Florescent. I'm seeing a lot of new generation Apeks fans because of this transfer. The first player from Game Changers, but she's always been someone who respectfully doesn't give a fuck about what the narrative is. She just wants to be the best player that she possibly can, and having already been to Berlin, played events here, I don't have much of a concern about how she's gonna play under the pressure, if you will, of being that representative and being on this team and making the jump up to VCT, because she has shown that she's capable. Kind of like, you know, behind closed doors in this position before. It's like the new fifth player that's coming in, who maybe we've not seen too much of, or even just odorous having to sub, that at the start makes it a little bit questionable. I think for now, I want to see them taking a win, but honestly, I'm kind of defaulting them towards the bottom tier, but we can adjust it. I think maybe I'll stick them in playoff push with you just to be nice, and then we'll work it out as we go along.
BBL, and this is one where I find it like hard to put bias aside. Because like both you and I have a good mate on the team, well, mates as well, considering they've got the new assistant that's joined them, Scott. They've also got their own sub in Vac, who I actually quite like as a player, whether he gets up to Chua levels in the team and gets acquainted with how they want to play. Like, I feel as if this roster can be like really explosive and have a lot of good potential there, but like I can't get away from them being bottom, Hazza.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the same time, though, we've just placed Apeks playoff push. If they were to play against BBL, do you really think that BBL are a worse team than Apeks?
I think that's a hard decision. If I'm being honest. I don't think they're worse than Apeks, but I don't think they're better than Apeks. I feel as if this is like it's like the kickoff paradox. You know,
I know what you mean. Someone has to go at the bottom of the pile at the end of the day. You know what? I'm just going to break the ice. I'm putting Apeks back down into bottom. I'm going to put BBL just in front of them, and leave it there for now. and leave it there for now. But I can't even let this one settle. I don't know. Yampi debuting into a project where he can actually be IGL and take the reins for himself. He's got Pal, and he's sort of the understudy of him there, and learning how to really take on this role. But he has plenty of good experience. It's just more about fleshing that out, I think, and making this team look a little bit more developed. They've already had visa issues in terms of getting players in. You've got Vac in there instead of Chiwa, both players actually who you'll remember we had back on Who Cars back in 2023 when they came in. And I think, you know, these are guys which have been waiting for forever to get a chance to show what they can do on that stage. And I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. Levin, Sociable, both names from the Turkish league that have found their way up as well, that, you know, should be doing decent as the year goes on. But I think right now it's kind of hard just to see them moving any further, even if they did beat GX in the off-season.
Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing, is like I could actually see them beating GX as well in that game. But like it all comes down to if we actually see Vac well acquainted. I think that's my big if statement on whether I see BBL going further than what they currently are, or if I see them falling to the wayside like most people probably expect.
We can set our sights a bit higher up now, I think it's fair to say, with FNATIC, a team which won all of the EMEA events except for Kickoff last year, Stage 1 and Stage 2. A much different look to them. Durka has departed for the first time from this team in 3 years. They're going to be without him. And how does that look? It's Kayak that's come in at the expense of Apeks, and Crashies as well, as Leo is still absent. What are your thoughts on these guys, man?
So looking at thinking about home grounds and how they played there, it was the usual FNATIC stuff, right? They had some really nice ideas, but like I felt as if it was a good experimental off season for FNATIC, and I love the addition of Crashies. For me, that's the biggest part of it, and hopefully by now Kayak is well adjusted to like playing on lands and stuff. It's notorious that whenever Kayak plays on lands, he's not reached the heights that everybody expects him to. So, but with that being said, and in typical Kairo positive fashion, I'm going to put FNATIC as title contenders. I think this could be the return to being top dogs.
That's a bold statement. I'm not sure the general sentiment right now is that FNATIC are in title contending shape. But when have they ever been? And then it's just happened anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's ultimately it. When game day arrives, they're a different beast. It's just they've been without that international success for the last year anyway, even with the issues that they had. Yeah, I like the Crashies pickup. For me, I'm going to dunk them in international teams. I think he still needs to get up to speed after being in NRG, but at the same time, it's an environment which is going to facilitate that. You see the work ethic in FNATIC. The ethos of this team is much different to that as it would have been under Chet, to be brutally honest. I think this is a huge opportunity for him to rekindle his career now. He's 27 at this point in time, right? You know, you are getting towards the latter end, as you would say, and I think the fact that he's a dedicated initiator player coming in here as well, someone with experience, full stop, it just makes him such a big pickup next to Kayak, who, as we said before, has all the right qualities of a duelist to fit into this team and do the same kind of things that you would expect from Durka, not to the same level, of course. In terms of LAN experience, you mentioned it there as well, he only had one best of 5 to show it with Apeks. You could see he was like adjusting the headset the whole time. He couldn't get comfortable. As soon as he got to map 5 of that series, it was the Kayak we knew and loved. I think just a little bit more calibration time, and he's going to look golden on FNATIC. I see them being international. There's a chance they can get to Bangkok in this opening event, but you know, as the year goes on, that's when we see them jump up for me. But for now, international.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how comfortable they are from the off season, right? And I think like there's teams that we haven't even seen in the off season as well. But for one of the teams that we have seen in the off season, Hazza, I'm gonna go with Foot in a title contender spot. I liked what I saw. I liked what they were building. Everything, and like they looked like a fairly solid team in the home grounds event. And obviously they've had time to build upon that. Like I really like what Foot's putting forward.
Looking at Foot as well, I do agree with you. I had them as title contenders. I'm just surprised that you're locking these in like straight off the bat.
Mate, I'm here. I'm not here to mess about. You know, I'm here all about business.
And I agree with you as well. The business that they made, Zeus coming in for CNED. CNED passed his best. I don't think that's a hot take at this point in time.
Yeah.
Spell on Na'Vi was a bit of a rut in the career. When you look at it, it was a move which on paper looked like it could cement them as being, you know, one of the best teams in EMEA or really kick them on internationally. It didn't work. He went into a Turkish-speaking team, but just similar issues, I think, in terms of how he actually gelled with this core, which has been around since their previous Tier 2 success. They've made constant little tweaks, bringing in players to improve as they've gone along, and I think Zeus is that next step up. The guy was an absolute beast, highest ACS in Turkey last year, and just little glimpses of what he can do in home ground, even against G2 and one of the best in the world like Jorgamo in that head-to-head. Really, really excites me for this year. So I think they're sort of born title contenders straight away. But then the question is, can Zeus keep up that level? Because I think a lot of this does genuinely rely on him performing.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that's the thing with Foot, right? Like, you've always got to remember that, like, they've always been on the fringes, right? They've always been top 4, like, sometimes just sneaking into international events. But I feel as if for this team, like, there needs to be a year that sets them aside, like, from everybody else. Like, they need to have a year. They deserve it. They're so historied and Valorant as a whole. So, like, I think, honestly, with the addition of Zeus, if it's not this year, hopefully it's next, you know? So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I suppose so. I guess then you've sort of got to look at the rest of the project because, as we mentioned before, it's making little tweaks to get improvements. Like even HazzaJC coming in the previous year, I think, did a lot to give them some consistency with their Sentinel. They were experimental in off-season with comps. Look, who knows, man, how this is going to look. But for me, yeah, they should be contending for a title at this point in time. And as you mentioned, they've already been making internationals. It's now just about actually making deeper runs, which they already did when they went to Shanghai. But here we go. On up next, it's Gentle Mates, our friends, our French friends, who aren't really very French anymore.
Yeah, I know. I like. Do you know what? I do like Gentle Mates as an org. Like the outward facing. Like image that they have, like of being like friendly and stuff like that, and the players that they picked up, like and some of the coaching staff, I like JT, I like Robbie BK, Click, like the full shebang, like they look great.
Yeah. This is literally just like the Challengers EMEA promoted roster. Like that's one thing I do like about it. Sure, we've not got the same names that actually earned promotion a couple years ago, but it's like the best of the best that we had, I think, in Challengers 2024. Plus Sipan.
Yeah, that's the thing though, right? I still doubt it. I still doubt that.
What?
I still doubt them, man.
Rock bottom?
Rock bottom.
Seriously?
I doubt them big time, mate. I just
Why?
don't know what it is.
Why?
I'm just not convinced. I think it's a mishmash of everything. Like Robbie BK, good fragging IGL. Click can go and smash, like, go and smash teams if he's like.
You're saying it like he's the Hulk, bro.
You know,
Click,
I know,
smash.
but bro, the guy literally 1v9 the full of Dak, right? Like he can go and do the Hulk. Like it's like the meme with Loki where he's like flinging him about, right? Like this guy can do it, but like. When you're moving into Tier 1, like this gap between jumping from Challengers into Tier 1 is completely different. Like look at the original Gentlemates roster that had all the, like, how would I put it, like you had all the synergy, like they played together for so long. They looked amazing coming out of France, looked pretty good in Ascension. You can't doubt that. Listen, everyone will have their own takes on it, but you saw how different it was jumping from Ascension into Tier 1, and I think that's going to be the same issue with Gentlemates.
The difference for me is that the players Gentlemates have picked up were best in class per role throughout Challengers last year, in my opinion. I think Mini was one of the best Sentinel players that they had. He was on the watch list of a few other EMEA teams that wanted to pick him up. Gentlemates did a brilliant job tying that one down. Robbie VK in this team, I would have loved to have seen Lohan coaching him because he has sort of been revered by everyone who's been under his tutelage. But I think Robbie still learned quite a lot in the position that he's now in. He had a style on a lot of rounds where he would like contact in a group, similarly to what Click was doing on SK. I feel like stylistically that could mesh quite nicely. Zipan has always been a solid, consistent fit whenever he was on NAVI. I'm just expecting big numbers from Click anyway, man, to be honest. Like, you look at this guy, he's always got such brilliant output. Statistically, work that JT has done has sort of backed that up, I think, in terms of what he was posting about it. And then, like, even Goked as the head coach of this project, he's done, you know, he's paid his dues when he was with Leviathan. The previous year, he has a lot of experience now from roster to roster from when he was on Koi before, you've got to remember, and he's been sort of putting things in place for this project for quite a while now. For me, I'm going to go the top end of the bottom. I don't know if I want to raise them to playoff push just yet, but we can adjust those goalposts as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the next couple will be round about this level, and honestly, I'm gonna put GX. Well, that's the next team we'll talk about. Wait, let me.
Yeah, GX. You know what, man? You've been going first every single time. I'm not gonna throw you under the bus. For me, GX straight into top half. If you actually look at the components of this team, they should be with an outside chance for an international event as this year goes on, in my opinion. Think about it. Cloud, I think, you know, like one of the top initiators that we have in this region. He's moved on to IGL. You could see how much of a boost that was for Purpo as a young player who wants confidence to not be under the sort of strict regime of someone like Redgar and have a little bit more freedom to sort of express himself in the server. I think Westside looked brilliant with Diamant last year. You already saw a couple glimpses of it, albeit in Spotlight, that when the guy's feeling comfy and the vibes are up, he's going to perform. Same with Tomasi. It's been a bit of a role change with him, you know, onto controller from being one of the best duelists we had in 2023, but he, you know, had his time in the sun with Madrid as well. Runners come in, you know, he went to champs. Man, there are lots of players here who are riding a high. You've got a GiantX team to be excited about. I don't see why they can't be top half.
Listen, I'll tell you why. They get beat off BBL and that
in an off-season event in Istanbul.
Yeah, I know, but still, they look good. BBL looked good compared to GX. It was a good game, but I don't know, man. We're not going to talk about it anymore, but I'm going to put them in playoff push spot. I think there's a lot of young guns there. I feel as if GX, they made like one international event as an organisation, if I'm right in saying it, the champs. Like
Giants, 23 champs.
23, like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel as if, I'm just not convinced, right? I feel as if this organisation, this team, they have good ideas, but I feel as if there's just something stopping them, and I'm just not convinced by this project. I think, like, as you said, like, a lot of great, like, out-and-out gunners who can go and frag out, but, like, when it comes down to it, is the vibes going to be there? Is there going to be, like, a proper leader? Is there going to be someone to pick them up when things start to go wrong? And I could even, honestly, I could argue them into the bottom if I really wanted to, because I can just see things falling apart like a house made of cards, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
Like a glass cannon. Do you know what? It's a glass cannon.
No, I feel you. I feel you. I think people would have shared the same sentiment about Heretics last year, though. For me, it's more just, are they going to be able to get whipped into shape, and can they gain some momentum nice and early? Because you look at that first game against BBL, it does then seem a little bit more make or break, like you were saying. You look at this kickoff bracket, you go into that opening match. If you can't then win it, how do you feel about the rest? Same with Apeks Gentlemates. I think there are some sort of big hinges on a lot of these teams in this opening round where they're not your established powers like Foot, Vitality, FNATIC, Heretics that are going to make all of the difference. And the next one of those is KC. Kairo, how are you feeling about them after we barely saw anything from them in home ground?
Yeah.
They played a couple of best of ones at some creator events in big stadiums.
Oh, man. Like,
But SHYLOOM, though.
Yeah, but that's like when Celtic got Roy Keane. The guy was like, you know what I mean? The guy was I'm not saying SHYLOOM's at the end of his career, but Roy Keane was at the end of his career, right? Like, SHYLOOM's come out a loud team that didn't perform well, and I know SHYLOOM is known to be like the guy who goes and like can win championships and stuff like that, right? I'm just not convinced by this project at all. I feel as if like last year, like there was a lot of tier 2 talent that you looked forward to, like your Tomazis, Martin, who obviously has kept his spot this year. Ing obviously likes strong personalities who are like IGLs, right? Redgar, out and out IGL. You look at Magnum last year, he's tried to go for a project there. It's not worked out, so we're going to go for SHYLOOM instead. I think like, if it is going to work, like I feel as if SHYLOOM will be either the positive or the detriment of this roster. Aves and stuff like that, like, are these guys going to be able to make that jump into tier 1 as we keep talking about? And honestly, my opinion is no. I feel as if this KC project is going to be the bottom of the pile. I like, genuinely, I'm not convinced by what they're putting forward at all.
I don't think KC were able to give the showing that we wanted from them at home ground, because SHYLOOM was saying that, like, oh yeah, we've not been doing great on Haven, like we were scrimming it or whatever, and then they played it twice in the groups, and that was it. They were gone. Like we didn't see anything more from them. They've showed Sunset a couple of times. I don't think you can really read too much into the pool. The bigger thing for me is they signed SHYLOOM, they got their man, that's who they wanted, and you build around that. Eng and SHYLOOM as a 2, just pound for pound, the amount that you have there is ridiculous. This is a guy who's always been able to do more with less. Like, the reason why they struggled so much, they didn't. It's a SHYLOOM without an Aspas, but you've still got tools there. Genuinely, I think it's going to be one that takes time. They will get better throughout the year. What's so funny?
You said he's able to do more with less.
Yeah, I actually held myself back from making that joke. So
yeah, I made the joke, and that's just why I'm laughing.
You've kept Martin, who was brilliant last year, honestly.
Yeah.
Brought in Aves, who people have been ranting and raving about. Spoke to Milan.
Yeah.
He was one of the players that trialed for FNATIC. They hold him in high regard. He's out of left field for a lot of people who don't follow challenges. Even myself from MENA, it's not where most people are looking for those kinds of pickups. Even Elite, though, on BBL, he was like their best player last year. I don't see why we can't at least nestle them playoff push. I don't think I can realistically put them much higher than that, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I really struggle to see that.
You're never going to agree with me. It's fine. SHYLOOM, my beloved, will go next. Koi, what do you think?
Koi. Yeah, this is like a team that's had a almost full redo. You know what I mean? They've kept a couple players in Grabinho and Shados. But with that being said, like, they've got new coaching staff in. Gorilla has now taken over with Leica. And like what they've brought in, Flyer. They've brought in like Soulcast, who's a like unbelievable flex player. Honestly, like looking at the Koi team, I don't know if I'm being optimistic here. But I'm thinking top half of these boys.
It's tough to say, man. I think there's a world where Koi actually do pretty well with the players they've got. They've got some returning VCT talent. They've kept onto a couple of names that they like. But there's also a world where they don't do too great. And to be honest, I think I'll probably settle somewhere in the middle with you. Stick them under on playoff push than KC, to be fair. I think Filu is a super underrated name to come in here. I'm actually really glad that Koi have given him the chance, because he's one of those names that you just don't, you don't expect to see someone take the gamble on a guy where you look at his VLR here. he'd been on Movistar, UCAM, Kase, Maus, Desire, a serious journeyman throughout challenges, to then finally get his big break and come up at what I remember, if I'm not mistaken, he's still only like 20 years of age at this point in time, which is crazy for the amount of teams that he's been on. Could do a lot for this team. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do. He's someone that no one's really spoken about, but I think could be a major component.
I think like with the ascension that he had, like he looked really, really sharp. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is Philogier, this is Philogier." Wanted to believe it, but like while his team never like performed that well, I feel as if individually he showed a lot, and I think that's obviously why he's got his Just Rewards, right? Like with him being picked up by Koi. And I really hope like him and Soulcast get what they're looking for here.
Yeah. Next up, NAVI, for me, top end of playoff push. Another one of those teams that drops into this category for me. Instantly, you've got Shao and Angel, some of the most veteran names that we have in the space. Angel is going to be able to do what it is that he wants with this roster. He's been given the control to build it. He's had another CS veteran in the form of Happy come back from NA, and alongside koalanoob on M80, he's come over. Looks like a really good duelist player, to be honest. I'm excited to see him join the region. They spent, big money to get Hero in. I think that was the main, that's the big signing for them, at least, actually, rather than the import. And he's a young gun, so that's just them paving the road for the future of this roster and what that looks like. Ruxic joins him as well. Those are the 3 changes that they've made. Yeah, look, I think they'll be good. It is a bit of a strange roster for me. People probably would have felt the same way about the original FPX back in the day. You're never really going to understand it until you see it play out in action. What comps do they bring with Teo coming in? Lots of questions to be asked. It's just hard to want to put them up too much further, I think, despite the notoriety that they have.
Yeah, I think like what everybody needs to remember as well with NAVI is that this is a team that do like to rip up the playbook, do like to try and do new things. If you remember Kickoff last year, like they tried the Gecko on Ascent early doors. I can always remember them trying to like thrash through from tiles into mid and stuff. I don't think the game went too well from what I remember, but the point being is like with Tail coming in and how strong he's looking, I think NAVI could be in a really good spot coming into this kickoff, and probably for the future. I'm going to do the same, Hazza. This is the first time that I think we've like properly agreed on a position. I think they'll be towards the top half of that playoff push, and I like what they're showing. I do like what I like the prospect of the roster summarised. Whether they can go further, different question. Whether it all falls apart, listen, it would be the second year running, and then you're looking at serious changes for that team and organisation.
Speaking of top half, Heretics, they're always going to be somewhere up there. The question is, where exactly do they land? The year after 2 international finals, their own final in EMEA as well, but no trophies lifted, and a trophyless home ground as well, which was plagued with issues, and I'm just thankful to see that they were able to get back up on their feet and deliver at the Gamergy show match, which they had, which again showed Benji playing, like Breach and on different roles. I remember we interviewed him. He was like, I asked, are we going to see you on more Initiator? And he's like, I know that I like Breach, and that's about it. So that's what we get from him. Are they going to keep innovating, or do they stick to the tried and tested? Regardless, I think it would be hard not to put them into title contenders, in my opinion, just based on the fact that it's just such a well-knit group at this point in time. The only way that I can see them maybe falling off a bit is, the fact that they're going to have to try and repeat the previous year, and also the fact that do you kind of have this then extra expectation where your ego is elevated to a point where you're like, oh, you know what, we should be beating these teams, why are we not? And then it becomes a bit of a problem. I don't really know. I think they're better than that, honestly, but look, we'll just have to see. That's where I've put them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go one step down. I'm gonna put them
Okay.
in an international team spot, and it's for the exact reasons that you mentioned, right? Like, it's trying to repeat the season previous. It's trying to bounce back from like all those finals missed out. Honestly, like there's a thing to be said about like how much I like missing out on those many chances, like how it makes you, how it turns you into a better roster, which for like being the positive guy that I am, like I really do hope that's the case for Heretics. Like, I'd love to see them have a golden road this year, and like it's the Cinderella story that you would hope for Heretics after the disappointment of last year. But to go one step further, it can also break you, right, as a roster. Benji on stream has already talked about how like it actually burned him out a little bit, like losing all those finals, like putting all that work in, not getting what they deserved as a roster. And I guess it's bittersweet in the end. Like, you're the second best team in the world for the full year, but while you're the second best team in the world, you're not the best, right? And I think that can really hurt you. Whether they change their identity, try and go for something different, teams will then be able to like counter that. Or do they try something new, like this triple initiator, changing up the roles, putting Benji on breaches and stuff like that? I don't know, man. Like, I feel as if there's a lot of questions being asked of this roster right now that we won't know the answers to until it comes out. And then, like, it can be a difficult conversation to be had about Heretics. Or a very happy conversation, depending on what happens.
True. For me, they're still young, they're hungry.
Yeah.
The reason for the innovation in the roles, I think, is just to keep themselves more flexible, because you have to remember, they're one of 3 rosters internationally which hasn't changed a player, which gives them more time to get a break, even though they were, you know, burnt out, overworked, whatever you want to call it, and not have to worry about getting someone up to speed with scrims or trials or anything like that. So it's a double-edged sword. We both have the same feelings about it. We're just going to have to wait and see what version of Heretics comes out into Kickoff this time. As we know, that was, you know, the best tournament that they had last year, I think, at least regionally in EMEA. It was an uphill climb from that point onwards. Now then, last 2, Liquid and Vitality. We'll start off with Liquid. I'm going to put them in top half. I think, look, just the names here. You've got Patatek in there, the super sub.
Yeah.
Have they broken the golden rule? Do they have too many Polish players with not too sure? I do really like Kamek as a flex though, Kiko as well. I think can be good. Nats IGL though, I don't really know too much about that, and that's where I start to have issues with this team, and maybe where I'd want to swap them out for some of these names that we've got underneath. I just think though, looking at it on paper, they're probably a little bit too good to be further down. What do we think?
I don't know. I feel I'm really underwhelmed by the Liquid roster. If I'm being quite honest, like Kiko is a great duelist. I feel as if like
he's not playing duelist though this year.
No, yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. He's a great duelist, and the year that he had last year wasn't amazing, but like he was still good enough, right, to be like maybe kept in a duelist role. But him moving off role is where I start to worry, right? Like we saw Tamazi move off role from his duelist capabilities, and it didn't really work out for him.
They made an international event.
Yeah, I know, but like what I'm gonna say here is I'm not convinced. Like you also like talk about like the Nats IGL. He's played a long time. He's been around. He's a smart guy. I don't know if that's gonna be a win. Patatek, I think, is probably the player I'm most excited about in that roster. But if I'm being completely honest, Hazza, I think the top of bottom. The bottom here.
You got a lot of bottom teams here, man. What's going on? You're just a hater. It's crazy.
Maybe I'm.
The cold Scottish blood. Angry man.
I've been saying I'm a positive guy. Like, I can't see these guys.
You got a Scotland jersey on. It makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just trying to be like realistic though. Like, I just don't see this Liquid roster doing like everything that it. Like, I just don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see a world.
I could swap them for NAVI, maybe. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think Kiko is always a player who's had a brilliant work ethic, so he can pick up a different role. I feel confident in him to do that. It's just the rest of the system, you know, and what that looks like. I think we'll leave it there for now for that one, though. And last up, Vitality. Probably picked up, in my opinion, the best duelist in the world that they could have, unless you have gone for Aspas, as he was sort of looking everywhere. And like the best Sentinel player in the world that you also could have gone for in less. So it's one of those situations where they're too good to fail.
Yeah.
I'm going to put them international, though, because personally, I think it's just going to take a little bit more time. They have a really solid core. I think Durka's amazing. Whatever he touches is going to turn to gold. I just don't know if off rip I see them being the juggernaut that everyone has them cut out to be. Is that real?
Being the bigger,
is that real?
Being the hater that I'm going to put them in international teams.
Okay.
No,
I thought you'd fully lost the plot for a second there, man.
No,
I thought you...
No, honestly. I feel as if with like with Vitality, it goes again, like speaking about the two dualities of this roster. Like you've either got like the super team that it's meant to be, like and they go and dominate, they make international events, they be title contenders. There's a lot of raw firepower on that team, right? Safe, who is like a big personality who can lead as well, which I'm really excited about. But the thing for me about it is Hazza, is the super team curse that seems to be in Valorant, that no super team has ever like truly went and won something or been like or played as well as what everyone expects them to. So I'm going to stick them in international teams because it's a tentative of whether they're title contenders or whether they're like on that like those lower categories, you know. So I'm going to stick them on the second category and see what happens.
All right, and with that, our lists are complete. We have the same amount of teams in each and every tier, which is good, I think, but quite a lot of differences in opinion. I think the craziest one for me is that you've put Koi up really high, like top 6. Yeah. And as well, in terms of sort of underrating teams, I think GX is probably fair. Apeks you put quite high up. Is there anything you would change about the bottom end here before we lock in, or are you happy with your final answers?
Honestly, that bottom 6 I think are so interchangeable. I wouldn't change my top 6. Honestly, maybe Koi's is on a shaky peg, but I wouldn't change anything about that top 6.
Yeah, I'm happy with my top 4. That's not a problem. I think most people would agree with that. I'm happy with my GX underdog pick. I'm expecting big things from them. Navi could jump up into this. I think this is like the highest that you would probably put them realistically. Koi could go down. I think Apeks, naturally they can go up if I put them at the bottom. I think one thing they do have going for them is Avova and Mulsi. Having been on that stage before, been there before, you know, Soulcast is a huge loss in that department. But yeah, if we can get like Ascension final level hype every single game, then who knows? Maybe he's like the blessing in disguise for this team. I'm going to be hosting watch parties on my channel, twitch.tv/HazzaJC _ be there or be square. Kairo, you're invited as well. Everyone's invited. Go tune in.
I'm doing my own. Come on, the boys.
That's getting cut out the video. All good. But yeah, we'll see you there. Let me know in the comments what you think about EMEA Kickoff 2025. Give me your predictions. Do you agree, disagree? All of that nonsense. But until then, bye-bye for now.